here we are. It is May 1st, 2025. It's Thursday. And as I said a few weeks ago, I wanted to talk a bit about this sale that's coming up in Hong Kong at Sotheby's. And I'm very interested to see how it does for a whole lot of reasons. One, I want to see how well several of the lots are going to do, and we're going to talk about them. And also, it's also an interesting thing to see how confident the market is because of the turmoil that's going on right now regarding the tariff issue. I have no doubt they're going to resolve it. It's just a matter of when. I noticed this morning that the markets were up considerably over the last few days. It's been going up and going down a little, going up a little bit higher and coming back a little, working its way up. And as I mentioned last Friday, the market's still up quite a bit over the last 12 months, even with the dip from the tariff announcements from Washington. I think we're now up 12.5% year over year. So, it's not the catastrophe that all the ninnies are claiming out there. I don't quite understand what they're talking about because things look very good. Inflation is low, 2.4%. I just bought gasoline the other day, about 60 cents a gallon less than it's been in the last 3 years. The price of oil has dropped by 20%, I think, in the last 3 months, or about 15 to 20%. The price of oil has come down. Things seem to be moving in the right direction. And I don't want to get into the politics of who's doing what and where and all that. It's a headache. But I'm just, for those of you that sort of are in the middle of things, center line people, I call them, people that are sort of balanced a little bit toward the middle. Don't let the media scare you. There's an awful lot of nonsense being said, and it's getting pretty tedious. I don't think anybody really listens to the media anymore much because they blew so much of their credibility over the last 8 years on one thing or another, one scandal, one mistake after another. But that's where we are. That's the world we live in, no matter whether you're here or you're in England or anywhere else. We've all seen it. It's the crazy train. But the thing that I want to pay attention to is the art market, the antique world, and I like to know that the finances and people are doing well and they have jobs and all kinds of things like that are still in place. But it'll be interesting to see how these sales do in Hong Kong because it'll give you an indication of how much confidence people have, because people aren't going to go out and spend millions of dollars on objects if they're concerned about making an income next year. That's really the bottom line. So we'll see how things go. And at Sotheby's on May 7th, they have a very interesting sale coming up. There's a number of very interesting lots in that sale, and one of them in particular is something many of you are already aware of, and we're going to take a good look at it. It's this. An absolutely amazingly rare Kangxi falangcai bowl that's decorated with the flowers of the four seasons on the outside of it, the peony, the pomegranate blossom, the camellia flower, and the hollyhock. And this is the bowl. And this bowl is historically important. Lots of ceramics were made in Jingdezhen. And they went to the palace by the thousands, to the imperial palace. Every imperial court orders thousands of ceramics and porcelains for decorations and so forth, because the palace was huge and all this. But there's this different classification of porcelain that was also made that was put in the palace, and this is one of them. And the reason why it was so unique was that the bowl itself was made in Jingdezhen. The physical bowl was produced in Jingdezhen, and it was glazed at that point only on the interior and the bottom. The exterior of the bowl was left raw biscuit, was left undecorated. And when it got to the palace, it was decorated there because the Kangxi emperor was absolutely fascinated with how things were made, and not only just porcelain, but scientific instruments, writing, painting, and you name it. And he established ateliers, studios within the palace, which was prior to this was unheard of. It was considered to be it was sort of just, you don't have people manufacturing things at the palace. But Kangxi really wanted to watch. He wanted to be involved. He wanted to supervise it even. He wanted to see how things were done. And he lived very close to where some of these studios were, where they were doing this decorative work, for example, like this, and the scientific work. And things that were produced to particularly high standards, he put his seal mark on, and that's the mark you see on the bottom of this. And he put them on scientific instruments, he put them on works of art, he put them on bowls, he put them on things that he felt were just so superior. And this bowl was one of them. This was a bowl that it is believed through the writings and so forth they've gotten, that he actually was directly involved with the creation of and decoration of, and met his approval. And if you examine this bowl, you'll notice that the colors are just stupendously perfect, because it was decorated with colloidal gold that was imported, or a technique of decorating that was imported by the Jesuits into China, and you end up with this sort of ruby groundwork that you see in the background, it was tied to a coloring technique called purple of Cassius, where they mixed tiny what they called nanoparticles of gold into the glaze itself, so that it would give it this beautiful color. And if you look at it under light, very close, you can actually still see some of these little tiny gilt particles sort of flecking and floating in it. And it gives this very unique color. But the bowl was also successful because of the superb decoration of it. You have this sort of European, almost neoclassical borders, but with Chinese flowers in them, and these beautiful, beautiful overglazed blue enamels. All of it is overglazed. All of the decoration here is overglazed. There is no underglaze on here at all. The enameling on the bottom of the bowl with the signature was added at the palace. It was not done at the kiln the way the more traditional pieces were done that were made for the palace. They often would put the rain mark on in Jingdezhen. When they would complete the bowl, they'd put it on there if it was going to the palace. These bowls didn't get one unless it met Kangxi's personal approval. Then he would allow them to use he had a special mark that he used, and that was the mark that you saw at the beginning. And this bowl was one of those, and this was one of the earliest ones. This is the other thing, that they believe this was a very, very early production piece, that because of the vibrancy of the colors, the rich egg yolk yellow, and the beautiful blues, and of course the pinks and all the other tones that you see here. And this was something that was very special at the time. And this was before they went into making them on a larger scale, where many feel the quality isn't quite up to this. So this is from a visual standpoint considered to be one of the very, very, very best in the world. I'm kind of shocked that it's being sold, because it was in the Pittsburgh Museum. I believe it was a Carnegie donation, and it had been there since 1958. And for some reason, maybe the museum's on hard times. Maybe some of you know what's going on there. But the Pittsburgh Museum has apparently deaccessioned this, and they will never have another one unless they get somebody who's fantastically advanced collector, or fantastically rich, that wants to help them buy one. It's one of those. I hate seeing institutions give up great pieces like this, but they are, and it's estimated at 40 to 60 million Hong Kong dollars, which is roughly, if you do you break it down, it's roughly $5 to about $7.5 million is the estimate on it. It measures 5 inches in diameter. Just about 5 inches in diameter. This is not a big bowl. It's a fairly small bowl, but fantastically rare. And it would be a very personal type of bowl for the emperor. And with the bowl at the bottom, there is an exceptional write-up. They even have a video here by Regina Crowell. And if you're a Patreon, one of the Patreon subscribers, you may recall we posted this over on the Patreon page a week or two ago for the subscribers to read, because I thought it was just so well written. And it goes through the entire history of the making of this bowl. This is not just a bowl; it is a historic bowl. It's tied into it brings in the personal interest of the Kangxi emperor into the arts, because he was a huge supporter of the arts, and it symbolizes so many things. It symbolizes his personal interest. It demonstrates the changes that he made at the palace by allowing an atelier to be established there for the making of porcelain. Basically, this is such a different thing at the time that it was considered unbelievable that he would be doing this. But he was really interested. Because he was a scholar, as many of you know. He believed, he practiced his calligraphy every day. I think the story has always been that he did 1,000 characters every day in practice to stay up with it. He read poetry. He studied. He was a curious man. And that curiosity and his interest in the arts overrode protocol, basically, is what it amounted to. And he wrote his own rule book on how he wanted to do things. And one of the things he wanted to do was to bring porcelain decorating into the palace so he could watch it and approve or disapprove, to put his hand on it to see it being developed. And so he, no doubt, was walking through the studio as they were decorating this, as they were working on it, and would look over the shoulder, probably of the artist, and say, how's it going? Because it was that sort of arrangement. And if you read about it, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. It was a very different side to it. It was a personal side for him. Anyway, this is a fantastic story. It's a fantastic bowl. Now, will it bring $5 to $7 million? It could bring 5 times that. It's very hard to say. If the economy, if things were quieter in the world and things were going along the way they were, 10 years ago, then I'd say, the gloves are going to come off. I don't know. It's very hard to say. But do not be surprised. Don't be surprised if it sells for the low estimate, and don't be surprised if it sells for 6 times the high estimate. For me, the benchmark for expensive bowls, of course, is the famous Chenhua outside decorated chicken bowl, the chicken cup that sold back a number of years ago for 35 million US. And that's sort of one of the real big high watermarks. To me, for what this bowl represents, that bowl was a very personal thing to the Ming Emperor, and representation and so forth. But I think this bowl also is in that class, because of its quality, the time in which it was produced, where it was produced, how it was produced, the elements that came together from Europe and learning how to use colloidal gold in the manufacture, the relationship of the Jesuits, all of it mixed into the soup and then being made in very close proximity where the Kangxi emperor was living in the palace itself physically, is just such a phenomenal thing. It's just so amazing. So we'll see. I'm going to be very interested to see how this thing does. But don't be surprised if it goes on the low end for one reason or another economically, and don't be terribly surprised if it blows the estimate to bits. That's all I'm going to say on it. Enough said. Great looking piece of porcelain. Go over there and take a look at this, study it, look at the enameling, because they make a lot of copies of these. All right. If you're looking, and I'm going to say this, and it's obvious, I know to some of you who collect, but if you're looking around on live auctioneers or Invaluable, and a bowl that looks like this turns up right now, there's a bowl sort of on this idea that just turned up somewhere. I can't remember what it is. Somebody has it, and they're trying to sell it as a 19th century bowl. It's not. It's a brand new fake. All right. You won't find even passable reproductions of these were made in the late 19th century. If somebody has one and they say it's late 19th century Republic, it's brand new. It's brand new, and it's a total fake. So just keep that in mind. This is a rare bird. All right. And then hopping along over, the next thing coming up is this. I just like this Buddha. It's a big limestone Buddha head. It's about 16, I think, or 18 inches tall, 40 centimeters tall. So it's about 16 inches in height. I guess it's 15 and a half inches. Beautifully worked, nice finish on it. And this actually had belonged to Alan Hartman at one point. Alan and Simone down in New York at Rare Art. He was the famous jade collector. He was a big Asian art dealer, among other things. He also was a big Tiffany lamp dealer, and he Rare Art dealt in sort of top items from all categories. If it was great, Hartman would deal with it. and he was a several generation dealer. This at one point had belonged to him, and he sold it back years ago. But it's a beautiful, beautiful Buddha head. It's estimated at 2.8 to 6 million Hong Kong dollars. So you have to divide those numbers by 8 to get roughly what the current, what it would be in U.S. currency. So it would be somewhere in the 3 to what is that, 6? I'm doing quick math here. Hold on a second. 350 to $700,000, something like that. Something in that range. So we'll see. But it's got an interesting provenance. It belonged to Alan Hartman, and then it was in the collection of the Minnesota Museum of Art. And it was acquired in 1974 from Allen, and then it went to Li Yin Oriental Art in Taipei. Ended up buying it, so the museum decided to deaccession it for some reason. I don't understand why, but they did. All right, and then over to this. This is a very, very rare thing. This is a Qinlong Lohan jade plaque, and this would have been one of two. It's a pretty good sized piece of jade too. It's 24 centimeters, so it's about 8 inches and 9 inches wide. It's a big piece of jade. Here it is. It's a screen, technically, beautifully carved, wonderful jade color, jade selection, and the carver did a fantastic job of incorporating the striations in the stone, the varying colors, into the carving itself to turn it into basically a landscape of cottages below clouds and trees and so forth. And it has a poem in the upper right-hand side written by the Qinlong Emperor himself. All right, and there were two of these. Would have been a pair for the 16 Lohans, or 16 immortals, and or in Buddhism, because he was a big fan of Buddhism and Taoism. Any rate, the carving on this thing is just great. Very deeply carved. It's a very inviting scene, beautifully polished, has everything going for it that anybody could want in a historic jade. And again, this is something that was, in the collection of the Emperor Qinlong. All right, this is something that was made somewhere, in some carving workshop, and they put a signature on it. This was something that has a historic background, and let's see here. The last time it was sold, there's very little provenance on it. It was sold at Sotheby's in November of 1984. That was the last time this thing was on the market, and so it's basically been off the market for over 40 years. And it'll be interesting to see what this brings. They're not saying who it's being sold by, or who any of that. So it's obviously a private collector or an institution that doesn't want to be named. But the estimate is 600 to 1.2 million Hong Kong, and I think that's that's an awfully reasonable estimate. So they're saying that it's worth somewhere between 80 and 120 to $30,000, something like that. I'll be shocked if that doesn't sell for at least that, maybe more. It's a very, very rare piece of carving. Incredible. And then over to this Yongzhen period. Now, this is an interesting vase. It has a molded relief at the bottom where the lappets are. And during the Yongzhen period, this was something they only did. These little lappets at the bottom are apparently, and you can't really see it in the photos, unfortunately, but apparently they're molded into there's a molded area of decoration around those lappets that they then decorated in underglazed blue. And this is a fairly rare treatment on porcelains, especially during this period. And the decoration is very, very fine. It's market period. The mark is on the bottom, and the shading of the colors is exceptional all the way around. Just beautifully done. The floating flowers on here, and it's some of the blue is almost translucent looking. You can almost you can see through it in your fruits and one thing another. And these very unusual lappets at the bottom are sort of elongated, quite attractive. And this is a good sized vase. There's no little vase. This vase is 41 centimeters. Or around about 16 inches in height, 15 or so inches in height. So it's a pretty good sized pot. It's got a big estimate, 15 to 25 million Hong Kong dollars. But it's a very rare type. The whole thing is rare. You don't see these very often. And the provenance, it was sold at Sotheby's in 1985. Then it was sold at Christie's in 1990. And then it's been at Lai Antiques Limited, Hong Kong, ever since. Maybe it was Mr. Lai's own collection. I don't know. But there's the Peter Lai's sticker on there, and there's the bottom of it. It's just a superb piece of porcelain. Just absolutely superb, and we'll see how it does. So the estimate is basically roughly $2 to $4 million, or $2 to $3 million rather, and it should probably get there, but we'll see. Again, it's something that's been off the market for a long time, so it's always fun to see how they do, how they're received, because there are certain types of porcelains and certain actual porcelains themselves that just keep turning up over and over and over because they made a lot of them, and then there are pieces they didn't make a lot of and that are rare and haven't been on the market in a long time, and those always seem to do awfully well. So we'll come back and revisit this when it's all over. And then there's this. This is a fantastic thing. This is a Beijing Marken period dragon jar, and with its lid, no less. So you have this piece. Is a very big jar. It's 25 inches tall. That's huge for one of these, and it was done during the Beijing period. And it has the rain mark. I believe it's on the shoulder, isn't it? There it is, right there. But it's decorated with this fantastic looking, very animated dragon. I like it a lot. There's the back of it. There's the side of it, rather. And this very animated, very bold, five-clawed dragon. But notice the quality of the color. The quality of the color on this is really outstanding. For the Beijing era. This was they had a lot of different colors that you will turn up in cobalt on Beijing porcelains, because it was a fairly long reign and there was a lot of experimentation going on with pigments, cobalts. They had different sources of cobalts. They experimented and tried, mixing different cobalts together to get different effects. And that's why when you look at Beijing blue and white wares, you often see all kinds of color ranges in the porcelains, going from one to the other, light to dark, gray, more blue, and so forth. But this color is as good as it gets. This is superb blue. Absolutely perfect. It's in great condition. It has its original lid. It's Marken period, and the emperor was a big fan of ceramics. He built a temple and actually ordered so many ceramics they couldn't even keep up with the production, and they ended up having to farm some of the porcelain work to being made to the unofficial kilns so they could complete the orders in time, because the official kiln controlled by the palace couldn't do it. They couldn't keep up with the output that was needed. And it was all because the Beijing emperor had gotten deep into religion. So, at any rate, this is a hell of a nice thing. It's estimated at $5 to $8 million Hong Kong. So they're hoping it'll bring somewhere around $650,000 to $1 million. And I think it's absolutely worth it. It's a beautiful, beautiful piece of blue and white. And if you're a blue and white collector, grab some nice photographs of this to put on your wish list for down the road. And no, these don't turn up either. There are reproductions of this type of jar that turn up in auctions all the time. They turn up down in Georgia with the criminals down there that run auctions, and the criminals in California that run auctions, and the ones in Florida and New York and all that. This is a real one. So get some good images of this saved up. It's a nice thing. And then there's this. This is just lovely. This is a very fine and a very rare Longquan celadon from the southern Song, and it's in Canuta green. This very, very soft green, seafoam green, as they like to call it. It's beautifully glazed. It's beautifully potted. The proportions are absolutely perfect. It's in wonderful condition, and I'm going to be very interested to see how it does. They did not share a picture of the base of it, but those of you who have seen them know what they look like. I always like to look at the bottoms of things. They can be very informative. But here you can see the details of the handles. And the creatures on here, and how they're sort of highlighted, the way the glaze pulled back against the high points of the porcelain to create this mask, or these faces on each side, but just beautifully done, and a little pooling of glaze at the midpoint and then down. So it's one of these masterpieces of pottery, rare form, desirable period, Southern Song, and great color. And it's estimated at 3 to 6 million Hong Kong, or around that comes out to uh, five times 400, 400 to seven or 800,000, something like that. It's a great piece of porcelain. It's probably about 9 inches tall. I think most of them are. It's 25 centimeters. So yeah, it's about 9 inches tall. Most of them are about that height, but it's a great example. So, there are lots of examples of these around, and there are many more fakes of these around than were ever produced. But this is a real one. It's a good one. And then the bubble bowl. And this comes from the Fujita Museum in Japan. That's what it shows for provenance. It's a bubble bowl, sung bubble bowl. And this is a very, very nice one. The Fujita Museum, you may recall, did a deaccessioning auction a few years ago. They didn't sell everything. They sold a few scraps from the museum, as somebody said, and I think it brought in about $500 million or some crazy amount. They had the Chinese Imperial Qianlong painting that brought $45 million by itself from one lot. And Mr. Fujita was a phenomenal collector. In his day, he came from a family of, I guess they were sake cookers, and they owned a textile factory. The collection of the Fujita Museum in Osaka. And Mr. Fujita had a fascinating history. He was a hardcore collector too. He was there's a story about him literally on his deathbed. And back then they didn't, when you wanted to place bids in an auction, obviously you couldn't do it online, you couldn't do it by phone. They did it by telegraph. And he, from his deathbed, was telegraphing bids, the story goes, to an auction that was taking place somewhere, trying to buy more things when he knew he only had a very, very limited amount of time to live, and he was still doing it, and he built up that great collection. And this was something that was in the museum, and it may be a duplicate. You don't know why, but you can't get much better provenance than the Fujita Museum. So this is a very fine example. The glaze is a beautiful color. This jaune glaze on here, it's really, really nice. It's thick. It almost visually, it almost looks like it has like if you pushed your finger into it, it'd be almost spongy. Because it's so thick and sort of swelled off the bottom of the body and the bottom of the body itself, and then the interior, of course, has a purple splash on one side. This very, very nicely shaped rim and beautifully glazed on the interior. It's a beautiful thing, and it's estimated at 200,000 to 400,000 Hong Kong, or that works out to about what 25 to $40,000, somewhere in there. So if you've been looking for a great bubble bowl with fantastic provenance, it measures 8 centimeters in diameter. So it's about 5.5 inches wide or so, something like that. This is a wonderful example, Leave a bid on it, buy it. All right. And the other thing that's coming up is this. This is a heck of a chair, a very nice Qianlong period Zitan chair. You don't see these very often, obviously. This is it. It's a magnificently done chair. Has a very powerful look to it. Beautifully carved. The back splat is inlaid with a very, very fine cloisonné panel with a Dowdy mask on it, and then a Buddhist chime with a tassel hanging down. And we'll take some looks. I want to show you the wood on this thing. It's absolutely beautiful. There we go. There. That is some great color. And again, Zitan wood. But notice the crispness of the carving all over the back of it, and the beautiful balance of the carving visually. You have this lovely little bronze plaque that's been put in here, and there's the cloisonné work, extremely finely done and shaped to fit within the backsplat itself. Of course, all custom made at the time. Absolutely superb looking chair, and it's estimated at 2.5 to 5 million Hong Kong. So we'll see how that does. That brings it in at around 350 to roughly $600,000, somewhere around there for the chair. But Chinese furniture has been doing well over the last few years, as you all know, so it could get there. I wouldn't be surprised if it did. It is Zitan, it is the Qianlong period, and it is superb quality, and it's probably pretty heavy. So I think it would be a great thing to own. All right, and then over to this. Now, this is an interesting bowl. Now, we've seen these gilded bowls before. They turn up from here and there, but this one had belonged to Alice Boney. There it is. And she was a dealer. She was a famous dealer in New York for many, many, many years. She was sort of a very headstrong, we'll put it this way, lady who knew what she wanted. And she ran a gallery in New York. And at one point she was living, and then she went over and she was living in Japan, and she was shopping and buying things over there and throughout Asia, and then bringing them back to her customers. And she handled some absolutely, where did it go? Come on. There we go. There it is. Gilded bowl, absolutely fantastic. I believe this is a Yongchen period bowl, gold enamels. And these gold enamel bowls turn up off and on once in a while. But Alice Boney or her heirs or somebody had this, and somebody's been hanging on to it for a long time. It may be her. She had an associate, a Mr. Fong was his name, who was sort of a nefarious character, from what I remember reading somewhere. He got in trouble for some sort of insurance thing back in the day. But at any rate, Alice lived to the age of 87, ripe old age. She was very well liked. People in the industry really loved her. I never got to meet her, but she died around, what was it, 1987, I think it was, or something. 1988 she died, and in New York City. But she had an exceptional career, and she handled exceptional things. That's the thing. Everybody, all the insiders, all the major collectors knew Alice Boney, and because she had an eye, and she got things from the source. She was known for going into areas and ferreting out great objects for her collectors. And this was something that she obviously liked for herself, so she kept it. The estimate on it is roughly $150 to $200,000. It is Yongchen. It is Marken period. There's the bottom of the bowl. Looks exactly the way it should. And gold, of course, the symbol of gold is a power color for the imperial family. It is throughout every culture, but this is gold enamel, something that the Chinese couldn't have done 20 years before this. This was a new technique, and obviously it was a popular one. All right, and then over to this. Now, this is not in that sale. This is another sale that's taking place on the 6th of May, and this is a good sale. It's Sakimito Goro's collection. This is the second part of it. They did the first part a while ago, but in this sale, there's this. And you don't see the yuan dragon jars very often. You see the ones with just the peonies on them off and on, and they're still very, very rare, don't get me wrong. But this is one with peony blossoms and dragons going around the top. And this is a Yuan dynasty example. It looks to be quite lovely, beautifully done. There's lots of photographs of it. They really want you to see it. And I don't think there's been a Yuan jar like this on the market now for a number of years. They do not turn up very often. And this one measures, what is it, probably about 14 inches or something? 34 centimeters, 27 centimeters high, so just a little under a foot tall, about 14 inches wide. There it is. And it was sold at Sotheby's last time in 1980s. In 1980, and after that, apparently it was bought by the dealer in London, John Sparks, who then evidently sold it to Mr. Goro. So there you have this. This is a very, very fine piece, and we'll see how that does. I suspect this will do very, very well. Yuan jars are always in demand. People that are hardcore blue and white collectors dream to own a great Yuan jar, and one with a dragon on it and the peony blossom. Sometimes you'll see ones with the dragon going around the outside, and others you'll see with the peonies on the outside. And this is one with the dragon and the peonies, so it's like a twofer, so to speak. I hate to put it that way, but it's got a lot of elements in it that make it very, very attractive. So we'll come back and revisit that when it's over. So that's sort of a quick rundown of what's going on with a few of the lots coming up at Sotheby's. The rest of the sales are very, very good too over there. Check them out. And there are some things in there that are more buyable for the more typical collector as well. So don't be intimidated. And there's some very good things coming up at Bonham's. In Hong Kong. They have a couple of neat sales over there with some good scholars objects and so forth. And we're going to talk about them in tomorrow's video. On the Friday video, we'll go through them. I think there's some great things in there, and a number of them have no reserves. No reserves in Hong Kong. That's a rare event. So we'll see how that does. All right. And I think they'll do fine. I think they'll do just fine. And we'll talk about them, and you'll have time to go and register and get it done from there. All right. Have a great week, the rest of your week, and subscribe here if you haven't already. And join us over, as I said, join us over on Patreon. We put a few videos up there this week. A number of you joined this week, so thank you for joining. I noticed I saw a little thing in my email because I get a sort of a total from Patreon, and a bunch of people came over and subscribed this week, so that's good. And we posted a number of things over there as usual, and including a video. And here we are. All right. Have a good week. See you tomorrow, and thanks so much for watching. I appreciate it. All right. Bye-bye.